So welcome to Dhammaloka Centre at the Buddhist Society of Western Australia. I've got to watch out because I was at the Buddhist Society of Victoria, so I could quite easily say Buddhist Society of Victoria. So my name is Venerable Nissarano, Ajahn Nissarano. Some of you may know me from my time at the monastery, and I can see some familiar faces. So it's very nice to see you this afternoon, and it's a wonderful opportunity to meditate together. And this is quite a special thing because I notice, and I'm sure those that come here regularly notice, it has an effect on the meditation, doesn't it? When we meditate together, we can seem to meditate for longer, for one thing, and also go deeper and perhaps more peacefully when we meditate together. Why that exactly is, I'm not sure. And I don't think it is group pressure. Sometimes people say, it's the group pressure, you don't want to, disgrace yourself, or, you sort of have the idea that people are watching me, and all this sort of thing. But I don't think it is that. I don't find that, and I don't feel that, actually, when I'm meditating in a group. I usually meditate on my own, because I live on my own in Sri Lanka, in a cave. So for me to meditate with others is a real special treat, actually, because it doesn't happen very often. So, as I say, it's a very supportive thing for us to do. And especially this Saturday afternoon meditation is one of my favourites because, of course, Ajahn Brahm is always introducing it and giving us some very good pointers, things that we can use in the guided meditation that comes after this. So, and this afternoon I was thinking that it would be very good for us to maybe use the idea of the best friend, being one's own best friend, for the meditation, using that as a theme. Because the Ajahn Brahm, of course, he emphasises kindfulness, doesn't he? You all know about kindfulness from Ajahn Brahm. Yes, the sound I think's gone up. And of course that is a very useful perception to develop. If we have kindfulness to whatever we're experiencing in the meditation, in our lives, it changes our relationship to what we're experiencing. Too often, isn't it, we react against things that are unpleasant. This is a very natural thing to happen. If something's unpleasant, we want to push it away, we resist it, we get ill will towards it. This is a classic word we use in Buddhism. We're resisting it. But if we have kindfulness towards whatever we're experiencing, it changes that relationship into a positive relationship. Because the more we resist things, the more we don't want things to be as they are, of course, the more they continue. So this is a very, very useful way to deal with it, the negativity we experience. But of course, we don't use kindfulness, we don't use kindness, this idea, as with the idea that if I'm kind to this unpleasant feeling in the body, be it pain, whatever, in the back, in the legs, in the knees, it's very common, it will go away. And this is a deal, isn't it? If we approach things like that, if we think, yes, I'll use kindfulness as a tactic, and then, that pain will go away, whether it be, as I say, a physical pain or a mental pain. Sometimes, there'll be anxiety, depression, anger in the mind. And we might think, I'll use kindfulness. But what we're really often doing is just trying to get rid of it. And actually that's not kind. Kindfulness is a form of metta. And it's saying to whatever we experience, it's okay for you to be here. It's accepting what we experience. It's not fighting with reality. Because basically we often fight with reality. And I always say you can fight as much as you like, but reality will win. It will be the way it is. So if we have kindness to what we have, real kindness, then that can change. Then we can learn from it. And that's the whole point of the Buddha's teaching, is to develop peace, to develop stillness, steadiness in the mind, and then to develop the wisdom that can come from that. And when we have kindfulness to everything we experience, I'm thinking 24/7, I don't think, sometimes we think, we just use it in the meditation. But the meditation is just a testing ground, isn't it? A place where we can practice. I like the word practice because it does sort of suggest we're really, we're in training for life, for how we experience life. And this is the purpose of meditation. It is to give us a good basis in the mind for dealing with our daily experience, whatever that be. So this kindfulness, which I think very, very useful, it's called, in a course, kindfulness for me is really metta, or loving kindness. This is something the Buddha taught a lot, and it's very useful in meditation and in life. Because when we have kindfulness, we are disabling the negative things. We're actually reducing them, ideally disabling them, when we meditate. Because the only thing that stops us from going into very deep meditation is, of course, the 5 hindrances of sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, or drowsiness and sleepiness. That's a nicer translation, isn't it? I think sloth and torpor is a bit old-fashioned in a way, a bit 19th century. And then restlessness and worry and doubt. Now those 5 things are really umbrella terms for a lot of other negativities we have. Fear, jealousy, envy, all these things can fit into these 5 hindrances. And when we have kindness, of course it immediately reduces ill will, and it also has this quality of allowing us to let our desires calm down as well. Because if we have kindness, the mind is full of very positive, warm energy. And so the desires even reduce. We certainly, if we have a lot of kindness or metta in the mind, we're certainly less sleepy and drowsy. And also restlessness will die down because we're kind to whatever we're experiencing, and then the restlessness can reduce. And the same with worry too. Worry can reduce as well, and doubt can go with it. So I like to think of kindfulness or metta as a very good antidote for the 5 hindrances. And one of my teachers, Ayakema, I think some of you might have met Ayakema, yes? I know Bianca has, and many of you, some of the others may have too. She was a German Buddhist nun who taught here in Australia quite a bit, lived in Australia actually, and she was a very good teacher of meditation, had many students. And she always used to say, before you do any meditation, whatever subject you use, whether it be the breath, whether it be walking meditation, whether you're doing the 32 parts of the body contemplations, do some loving kindness first, especially to yourself. Because this conditions the mind. It gives the mind, it clears a lot of the negativity that's going to slow us down and hinder us in the meditation. And so this is a very useful antidote for a lot of the hindrances we experience. So this afternoon I was going to emphasize an aspect of loving kindness, really, and it also is one that Ayakema, this German Buddhist nun that I mentioned, used to use as well, and that's to use the idea of a best friend. Because loving kindness in itself is a bit abstract, I think. It is a bit abstract, but kindness or kindfulness is a bit abstract. But everybody has an idea of what a best friend is. They may have in their minds a best friend. When you say best friend, you think of the qualities that go with that, don't you? You know, that sort of sense of connection, that sort of warmth, sharing, looking out for each other, looking out for our best interest. This is some of the qualities of a best friend. And of course, this is loving kindness, isn't it? So this is a very sort of more concrete way, I think, of presenting loving kindness, using it in the meditation for whatever we're experiencing the meditation. With it, for instance, we will sort of, when I do a guided meditation, we can be the best friend to our body, to make it comfortable, to go through the body. There's a very important aspect to the meditation, is actually to relax the body and to regard it like regard the body like we're its best friend. Very often, I notice for myself too, we just use the body, don't we? Use it without thinking, without giving much attention to the body. We want to use it to do things, go places and whatnot. But we don't give it very much attention, especially not that kindfulness, that sort of a best friend. So this is very useful in the meditation, and when we go through that, we can use this idea of being the best friend to our body, and then to the mind, and then to the present moment. Just to be present with whatever is here, whatever we're experiencing in the body, in the mind, in the present moment, like a best friend, welcoming it. A best friend, when you see a best friend, you're very happy usually. You just feel a sense of connection and joy. Like this afternoon, just seeing an old friend of mine, it's very nice. Immediately you have a warm feeling. And you can use this sort of concept, it is a concept, and you can even make it more concrete by, if you have a very good best friend, using them to arouse this feeling of metta or kindfulness, which you can use in the meditation. So I thought we could try that this afternoon. I use it in my meditation and I find it very, very useful. It's one of the things that works for me. And I feel with all meditation, it is an experiment, it is. You try different approaches, you're creative. You don't use the same thing every time. And you can change it, you can add things, you can see what works. And of course that's the criteria for a good meditation in a sense, is what works for you. Whether it's in the textbooks, that sort of thing, no matter. If it works, then, we are doing the right meditation. Then we're going in the direction of peace, stillness, wisdom, those qualities. So this is the criteria I think that's most important for the meditation. And to really, if you use that idea of the best friend, and you can use it inside meditation, you can use it outside of meditation, it changes your relationship to your own experience, internally, whether it be internally experiencing the body or internally experiencing the mind. When you're the best friend of your body, of your mind, you're in a very positive relationship. You're very open to it, you're very caring, you're very kind, you're warm, and you have that sense of connection. And one can use this approach actually even in daily life. Think of oneself as being the best friend of the people we meet, or wanting to be. They won't always come across, won't always be, responding equally. So, but nevertheless, if we come from that place of being a best friend, then our minds, our experience actually be very positive and a very warm, connected feeling of loving kindness. So I think we can probably start the meditation, unless there are any questions or comments people like to make, complaints. No? So if you'd like to find a posture that's comfortable for you. And we can close the eyes. And just adjust the body as much as we need to make it comfortable. To sit for about 45 minutes. And we can start with to bring to mind an intention for the meditation, just an idea for where the meditation can go. And this afternoon perhaps just to be the best friend of whatever we experience during the meditation, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, just to be the best friend to that experience. To be kind to it, not to reject it or resist it, want to change it, just to let it be. And we can start by bringing to mind the qualities of a best friend. However whatever comes to your mind as a best friend, the kindness, warmth, sense of humour, connection, caring, looking out for each other. Whatever comes to mind. Or even if you have a very best friend, to bring them to mind. And we get in touch with that feeling of what a best friend is to us. And we can bring to mind our bodies, and starting from the head, top of the head, all around the top of the head. Just to have this feeling of being a best friend, paying attention, kind attention to the top of the head. All around, noticing whatever there is there. Allowing it to settle. And then bringing the attention down the forehead, around the eyes, the cheeks, the mouth, the lips, with this kindness of a best friend. And noticing the saliva in the mouth. And moving the attention down the throat, all around the throat, with all the warmth and friendliness. And moving the attention down the right shoulder, all along the shoulder, giving it a lot of warmth and kindness for all the work it does. And then moving the attention down the right arm, from the upper arm all around, to the elbow, all around that, and the lower arm, all around that, to the wrist. This warm attention, noticing what's going on, what's happening. Whether there's tightness, tension, whatever we're experiencing in the right arm. And then bringing the attention to the right hand, to the top of the right hand, and to the palm of the right hand. Really noticing it with kindness, with friendliness. What's going on? Allowing it to relax and settle. And then moving the attention up the fingers to the tips of the fingers. And making a mind movement into the room. Letting things go that need to go. And now we move the attention to the left shoulder and give it this warmth and kindness, appreciation. And allow it to rest, allow it to be. Like a best friend. And we move the attention down the left arm, the upper arm, all around it, the elbow, the lower arm, down to the wrist. Being with it, allowing it to settle, to calm down. And then we bring the attention to the hand, the left hand, top of the left hand, and the palm of the left hand. And then we move the attention up the fingers to the tips of the fingers on the left hand. And we make a mind movement into the room, letting whatever needs to flow out, tiredness, stiffness, whatever, allowing it to go. Being the best friend. And now we relax, we move the attention to the below the shoulders, the back, just below the shoulders. Moving the attention down the back slowly, with kindness, friendliness, noticing what's there and allowing things to settle, allowing the dust to settle. Become more comfortable. Moving down towards the waist. And down the buttocks to the back of the legs, top of the legs. And now we move the attention to the front of the body, just below the shoulders, and slowly move down the front of the body with kindness, friendliness, noticing what's there and allowing things to settle, to relax, to become loose. Down the chest, towards the waist, down the abdomen to the top of the legs, with warmth, kindness, noticing what's there and not trying to get rid of it, just being kind to it, being friendly to it, to being warm, allowing it to relax. And now we bring the attention to the right leg at the top and slowly moving down the right leg, all around the thigh, all around the knee, moving down towards the ankle. With warmth, kindness, and ease. And then we move the attention to the ankle, and then the top of the foot, and the sole of the foot. Giving it this warm attention, appreciation, well-wishing. And we move the attention from the base of the toes, up the toes of the right foot, feeling what they're like. And then we make a mind movement into the room, allowing whatever to flow out, whether it be physical or mental, just to flow out. Any stiffness, hardness, whatever. Being the best friend. Now we bring the attention to the left leg, the top of the leg, and move the attention down the thigh of the left leg to the knee and the lower leg, all around, down to the ankle, giving it warm attention, like we hardly ever do, noticing, allowing it, letting it be with kindness. move the attention from the ankle to the sole of the foot and the top of the foot, giving it this friendly attention, allowing it to relax. And then we move the attention from the base of the toes on the left foot up to the tips of the toes, noticing what's happening in the toes. And then we make a mind movement into the room, letting whatever needs to come out. Tiredness, stiffness of the body or the mind. And then we bring the whole body to mind, from the tips of the toes right up to the top of the head. And we just sit with it, being the best friend, like this is a very dear friend. Someone we've been close to for quite some time. Filling the body with this warmth and appreciation. And we move our focus, our attention to the mind. Whatever feelings we're experiencing in the mind, whether it be tiredness, there's some irritation, whatever feelings we have, we treat them as if we're their best friend. We're there for them. We're kind to them. We're not trying to get rid of them. Whatever we're experiencing in the mind. The sense of allowing, giving space, acceptance, warmth and kindness to whatever emotions have been running in our minds. And then we move the attention, this quality of being a best friend, to the present moment, however we're experiencing it, in the body, through the senses, whatever experiences we're having in the present moment, just to be their best friend. And letting go, letting be the past, letting be the future, what will be, what has been. Just being still, being happy, content to be the best friend to whatever we're experiencing. Sounds of galas, sounds of the air conditioning, feelings in the body, whatever we're aware of, pleasant or unpleasant. And when we're ready, we can move towards to the breath and regard it, be a best friend to our breath as it comes in and out, regarding it like an old friend we haven't seen for a long time, with this warm feeling, combining this warm feeling of being a best friend with the breath. And now we're coming close to the end of the meditation, so we can just reflect for a few minutes on how we feel. Do we feel more friendliness, warmth, kindness, openness, relaxation, peace, or not? What are we feeling now? And what has caused these feelings to arise? Where have they come from? And we share the energy of this meditation with everyone here, with all our family, friends, and with all beings everywhere, that they may experience the happiness, the peace, warmth, friendliness of being their own best friend. We can finish with making an aspiration. May my mind incline towards being my own best friend, no matter what I'm experiencing, whether it's difficult, easy, pleasant, unpleasant, to relate to it, like accepting it as a best friend would, not criticizing, blaming it, judging it, allowing it to be, and seeing what happens. So we can come out of the meditation slowly, opening the eyes and moving the body to make ourselves more comfortable. So now if there are any comments, questions or complaints. Oh, from the internet, all right, good, all right, thank you, thanks. Right, oh, this is, all right. So this one is from Matt from New Zealand, and he says, in meditation, sometimes overwhelming feelings arise, despite them often being pleasant. I naturally tend to panic and start ruminating, trying to control them. Will this go with the practice and time, or is it representative of something I need to let go of? Right. I think, Matt, this is a very common experience when we have any strong, pleasant feeling. Particularly, in meditation, sometimes it can seem overwhelming, as you say. And when it is overwhelming, there is a fear, isn't it? What's going to happen to me? There's a fear that this sense of ourselves will be destroyed or harmed. So this is something that with time does calm down. And certainly if you have metta, or this idea of being your own best friend towards whatever you experience, that can help relax that sort of panic and stop can allow the ruminating to decline and to stop controlling it. So I would say with time and with familiarity, because when we experience things in the mind in meditation, often this is really unknown, uncharted territory, isn't it? So we've not been there before, so we can feel very uncomfortable. We can feel like we don't know what's going on. And so with familiarity, and particularly with an openness, and one of the qualities we get from metta, yes, it's a strange sound, with metta, is a fearlessness that we can be open to what we experience. And this is part of the reason it's very good, actually, at the beginning of the meditation to do some loving kindness or to use a concept like being one's own best friend, because it reduces that fear and because the mind really can only have one experience at a time. Of course, they can change very rapidly, can't they? But if there is this loving kindness, if there is this feeling of being one's own best friend, then the mind is more likely to be open, less fearful, and then to take these things in our stride. But certainly, like any unfamiliar territory, the more often we go there, it becomes more familiar. And the more familiar we are with it, the less fear or panic will occur, because we know that we've been there, we've experienced it. And this is one of the things I like very much is the fact that when people go into meditation, particularly deep meditation like the jhanas, they're actually leaving the world we live in. They're leaving what we call in Buddhism, we call it kamaloka. This is the 5 senses, isn't it? And we're going to a world of the mind, a rupa loka, especially in the jhanas. But even as we meditate, we may not go into jhana, but we are, to a certain extent, leaving the world of the senses, the outside world, as it were, and going into the inside world. And as Matt is probably experiencing, this is unfamiliar. And as we get more familiarity with it, we can navigate within it and feel more comfortable. But this is another world, in a sense. And it's the real world, it's our real home, as Ajahn Chah said, this mind, the mind in deep meditation, developing peace, stillness and wisdom. So this is very much a matter of familiarity and appreciation too, just realizing this is a different world. Things where mind is going within itself instead of, as it usually is, isn't it, out to the world, And in reality, if we go within the mind, what the mind can provide is more than anything that the outside world can provide. The treasure is inside, not outside. But we're so conditioned and used to the 5 senses, and in a sense, it seems much easier to access them, isn't it? They're always there. We can hear, smell, taste and touch. But when we experience the pleasures, the happiness of the mind, that is where the real source is. That's where everything is coming from that we experience. And so we can experience something much purer, much more happy, much more joyful, real treasure, rather than the tinsel that we're often drawn out to through the sounds, smells, tastes and touches of the world. But nevertheless, as I say with Matt, we're making these sorties, we're making these trips into the mind, experiencing the mind, and as we develop that, it will give us more and more familiarity, more experience, and it will change the way we view the world. When a meditator experiences deep meditation, they're less dependent on the externals. They're finding their happiness within. Why go out? When you're happy at home, don't need to go out. And then really, our real home is the mind. So this is the territory that we are, as meditators, we're going into. This is the territory where we can find real happiness and contentment. So Matt, I would just encourage you to continue, develop your familiarity, and also to use this metta, this friendliness, this warmth, a loving kindness, being one's own best friend. So I would suggest that for you, yes. So are there any other comments or questions or complaints? Complaints. I did have a complaint once during a metta meditation. After it, not during it, after it. So I asked for feedback, and one man said, he said he was feeling annoyed and irritated. And I said to him, well, it didn't work for you, did it? Because metta, of course, is supposed to reduce those sorts of emotions, annoyance and irritation. So I said, well, it's good that you saw that, because we have to be honest about our experiences in meditation, in life. We have to be truthful to ourselves and know what's going on. If we don't know what's happening in our minds, we're not even at the first base, actually. But if we know what we're experiencing clearly, then we can decide how we deal with that, how we react to it. So I said to that man, it's good that you notice that. It's good that you notice that. And then we all have a choice. We all have a choice what we develop in the mind, what we give attention to. I said, if you want to develop annoyance and irritation, go ahead. You're perfect. You're right. You can become as irritated and as annoyed as you like. And of course, by focusing on it, giving attention to it, it will grow. On the other hand, if you want to develop metta, if you want to develop loving kindness, friendliness, you can do it. You can go in that direction. So we are free. Often we feel, don't we, that our feelings, our emotions come up. Where do they come from? They just came up. That's what people feel. They're coming from a cause, from a condition. And when we understand that cause and condition, we can deal with our emotions, negative emotions, our positive emotions differently. And we can choose which ones we encourage, which ones we discourage by the attention we give or the lack of attention we give. And of course, all of our feelings come from either experiences in the body or in the mind through thinking. Thinking is one of the big conditioning experiences for whatever we feel. And then to understand what thought is giving rise to what feelings, this is the beginning of dealing with them in a wholesome way, in a positive way. So this is very, very useful to see. So complaints, it's quite good, quite good to have. So I said to him, you can cultivate what you like. If you wish to get more negative and irritated, that's fine. But you have to live with it. You have to decide whether this is pleasant, unpleasant. And of course it's unpleasant. Who wants to live with an irritated and annoyed state of mind? And then one has to take responsibility and think, well, what can I do about this? Not to resist it, not to be negative, to know that it's there and deal with it in a good way. And of course, one of the reasons I think for him, why he was, I said that to him that night, annoyed and irritated, was he usually came to the silent meditation we had on the Thursday nights in Melbourne. And so he liked the silent meditation. I said to him, I like the silent meditation too. It's really good. So he'd come to a guided meditation where there's more talking. And, obviously he must have felt that was irritating and annoying. And also, a part of it is, when we come to the meditation, isn't it? We come with a mind state already. And he may have had some annoying, irritating experiences beforehand, nothing to do with the meditation. And instead of, giving loving kindness to them, being the best friend to them, he just dwelt on them, as we often do, isn't it? You notice when somebody said to us, you're an idiot, and then we replay that hundreds of times. Oh, he said I was an idiot, I'm an idiot. And we get angrier and more annoyed, irritated. And we are actually cultivating that irritation and annoyance. And actually you see it very, very strongly these days. It used to be a very big issue, I think it still is, road rage. And this is where people, really build up, really develop, really cultivate this anger into a rage when they're totally out of control over sometimes very small things, being cut off in traffic, or somebody taking their parking place, or whatever, And this is what they've done, they've cultivated. They can do that if they wish to. But they live with the consequences, as we do, of the things we cultivate, whether they be the flowers in the garden or the weeds. These are the weeds. And it's very, very important for all of us actually that we recognise these negative qualities, these weeds, for what they are, because then we can do something about them. And as I say, the best way to deal with them is, of course, with some positive emotion, deal with them with acceptance deal with them in a way that's kind, that has got friendliness in it. So this is very useful approach to what we're developing in the mind, and we have responsibility for that. So, if there are any... Yes, would you? Something. Yes. All right. Yes. Just for the internet, you may not have heard that question. They just asked, this lady just asked about how living in Sri Lanka, going to Sri Lanka, has influenced my practice and living in a cave, as I do, and do I go on alms round? And yes, I do go on alms round every day into the village. Just to let you know, I live in Sri Lanka, and it's in a small village in a forest on the side of a mountain, and it's under a rock overhang. We usually call it cave in English, but it's a big rock, and it has a drip ledge, a groove carved into it that stops the rain from running under the rock. It hits that drip ledge and just drops, as the word suggests. And so you can have a hut under the rock. And this drip ledge is over 1,000 years old. Some of them in Sri Lanka are over 2,200 years old. And that's part of why I like living there, apart from the fact that where I live, under this big rock, is very beautiful. The forest is there, many animals. There is a stream that runs in the rainy season, not all year, in the rainy season. And it's a very good place for developing the meditation. And I live on my own, so I have nobody else to blame for whatever states of mind or body come up. You can blame the monkeys. The monkeys are very troublesome at times, and the weather or whatever. But usually you're with yourself. This is a very good experience. So I find that is that's part of why I like living there. Most of the foreign monks that come to Sri Lanka, they come to try to live on their own, because if you live in a Buddhist country, very easy. You're supported, and so you can live on your own. You can see, how that affects your practice, how it affects your life. And for many in the West, we are a little bit different. In Asia, people like to be very close to each other, but in the West, people like to have their space. And often they have this feeling, and I think I come from this too, can't really relax until we have our space, that feeling of, we're just, on our own, we can do our own thing. And so it's very good for the mind to have that feeling of relaxation. You're just there, And it's good for the meditation and good for developing insight too. Because you see it with Ajahn Chah, who was a great meditation master in northeast Thailand, and all the forest monks, whether they be in Sri Lanka, Burma, or in Thailand, they develop a lot of wisdom from the forest, from seeing the animals, seeing the trees, and it does. It really makes you reflect on life and the way life is, the way samsara is. So it's very good for my practice. I find it very, very useful. And I actually feel it's a rare privilege. I mean, forest is disappearing very rapidly. This development is happening very rapidly in Sri Lanka too. Now there's a lot of development. So I don't take it for granted that, who knows, in a few years' time, the trees could be cut down, they might be mining something there, and so it could all be gone. So now my time is quite good to be there. And of course, in a Buddhist country, you're supported. I can go for this alms round. In the morning, I go at just after 6. I go into the village, and then people give me food. I have a large-ish metal bowl, and then I bring that food back to the hut I live in the forest, and I have my breakfast, and later I'll have a little bit of lunch about 11 o'clock, and then I can keep going for the day and have afternoon meditations, walking meditation, and so on. So it's very good for the practice, actually. The Buddha always encouraged us to, go into what we use this word seclusion. It's viveka in Pali, And the first type of seclusion he recommended is kaya viveka. This is seclusion of the body, and this is what I have. In Sri Lanka, for Sri Lankan people who are here, viveka, of course, means free time now. That's how the word is changed in modern day Sinhala. So it's very important to have that bodily seclusion, that seclusion, physical seclusion from society. And the Buddha encouraged it for those that have some experience and are ready to go into that seclusion. And of course, after that, there is Chitta Viveka, and there's actually a monastery, isn't there, in England called Chitta Viveka. And this is the seclusion of the mind. What's that? People know? What is Chitta Viveka? It's the jhanas, these deep, deep meditations. This is real seclusion, because you've left the world. So you're really secluded from all the outside sights. You're secluded from, they say in the formula for the first jhana, unwholesome states, and you're secluded from sensual pleasures, from the external sense contacts. So it's very much, that's even higher seclusion. And then the Buddha talks about higher seclusion than that, and that's upadi viveka. And this is when one finishes with all the attachments to the body, to the mind, to continuing in samsara. And this is when enlightenment, and then when nibbana, parinibbana, when one's leaving the world. So these are all types of seclusions, gradually increasing. And of course, the most important thing about it, and I always emphasize this, it's a path of increasing happiness. Though not everybody that is secluded bodily, they're not necessarily happy. They can be, but some people could be perhaps lonely, it could be difficult for them, or whatever. But it is actually quite pleasant for me. I find it very pleasant. And of course, the seclusion of the jhanas, that's great happiness. And the seclusion of having put down, the body and the sense of self, this sense of me and mine, comparing ourselves to everyone else, everything else, has gone. When that's gone, that's even higher happiness. So that's my experience in Sri Lanka. So I find it very, very supportive. And of course, I feel, I have no evidence that, I must have had a past life there. So that's what I feel anyway, because it's such a feeling of familiarity there. So for me, it's a very, very positive experience being in Sri Lanka. So maybe we can finish there, and for those who would like to come up and speak to me or ask questions, you're welcome. We can just pay respects to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha and finish the formal part.